Hello and welcome back to another Tech Tuesday with me, David. Hope you're all well. Thank you for joining me today. As usual, this is a Tech Tuesday, so come on in, settle down, take a seat, get comfortable. And if you've got any questions, then feel free to drop them into the chat and I'll see if I can answer them for you as well. And give me a wave. Say who you are and where you're from. Always love to try and balance saying hi to people and clearing up technical questions as well. There's already tons of comments in the chat, so thank you very much for putting those in. And of course, I am here on my own, so you are my eyes and ears to tell me if something's going wrong. Let me know that you can hear me okay and that everything's running smoothly. And I apologize in advance for two things. One is that my voice is slightly croaky today. So if I have to go off screen and have a big cough to clear it, I'm so sorry for that in advance. And also, I've got quite a squeaky chair. So if you hear that in the background, I apologize. I haven't had time to get rid of that squeak today either. So bear with me. But what are we here to talk about today? Well, it's nice and simple. We're going to talk about getting close up with two really fantastic pro lenses. We're going to look at some information around the 12 to 45 f4 M.Zuiko Pro lens and the 8mm f1.8 fisheye Pro lens as well. And we're going to have a look at the specs and a little bit about look into them a little bit deeper and as to how they work. Sadly, today I'm probably not going to be able to do a live demonstration with either of them because the best purpose is where we're out and about. But of course, you can use these lenses absolutely anywhere. So we'll go through some information on both of those lenses, and in between, I'll kind of dip in and out of your questions and comments, and hopefully we'll be able to do lots of different Tech Tuesday stuff today as well. So speaking of comments, I'm just going to go in and say hello to a couple of people and see if we've got anything in there straight away. We've got most people watching on YouTube by the looks of things. I'll say hi to Margaret, who's in Melbourne. Rong, who is also, sorry, not in Melbourne. Rong is in Chicago. And we've got Ken and Neil in as well. Thank you all for saying hello. Tons more people saying hello from different parts of the world. Michelle in PA. The rather fabulous Mr. Chris Holditch, who is a fantastic photographer that I've met in real life. Good to see you in, Chris. Thank you very much for coming in. Tons and tons of people. I'm sorry if I can't say hello to everyone, because if I did, I'd just spend an hour saying hello and nobody's questions would get answered at all. And that's what I'm here for. You know, I'm here for tech questions. That's the key to these sessions, to Tech Tuesday. Clues in the name. So quick glance through some of these comments to see if there are any initial questions or anything related to today's topic, and I'll pull them up for us. Let's see. Neil Mitchell, using the 8 to 25mm and 12 to 100 for close-ups, how do these compare to the two you have today? That's a really good question, and something that we'll probably do in a future Tech Tuesday. We do these kind of focus on lens sessions like we've done previously with the 60 and the 30. The 8 to 25 and the 12 to 100, both excellent f4 lenses. And we've got a really great f4 series at the moment as well, which is something that I'll probably put together to show off how all those really come together and complement each other. But in terms of what I'm talking about today, in terms of close-ups, and Neil's question in particular, the 8 to 25 and the 12 to 100, in fact, all of the Pro lens do have substantially good close focusing. On some of these lenses, we're talking down to mere centimeters from the front element of the lens. But we talk about that focusing different distance in different ways. So that's something that we'll cover on today's session as well. So thanks for dropping a comment in there, Neil. Great to have you in, as always. Another quick rundown. Let's see what we have in here. Jeremy has pointed out no mention of the awesome new 20mm Pro. Again, something else that we might focus on in the future. If it was up to me, Tech Tuesday would run for 8 hours. So for me, it would be a 9 to 5. We'd go live at 9 and we'd cover absolutely everything right through the day until 5 o'clock. And the 20mm would definitely be in there for a close-up Pro lens. But sadly, we get an hour with each other for this session once a month. But the 20mm indeed is a fantastic lens, and perhaps something that will be the subject of a future session indeed. Now, Keep questions coming in, keep your comments coming in. It's great to see everybody being so active in there, and it also reassures me that people are watching, because I'm obviously sat here in the depths of the Middle English countryside in Cambridgeshire, in my secret headquarters, and I don't know if anyone's out there watching and listening. So tell me that you're there, and that keeps me nice and happy. And we'll make a start. We'll take a look at what I've put together today for you. So these are the two lenses that we're going to have a look at today. And I've kind of done this so you get to look at my face all the way through that. I don't know why. Was that a mistake, perhaps? But it makes it a little bit easier if you're coming in rather than just seeing all this writing and graphics, so that you actually got somebody moving around in the top corner. Hopefully, it'll make it a bit more interesting for this session. And let's take a look now, getting closer with the M.Zuiko 12 to 45mm Pro f4 lens and the 8mm Pro f1.8 fisheye lens. Really interesting pair of lenses together. So let's start with some specifications. We'll look at the 12 to 45 f4 Pro first. Now, obviously, if you're used to Micro Four Thirds, if you've been using Micro Four Thirds for a while, then you'll know that the field of view crop equivalent is 2 times. If you're new to Micro Four Thirds, or you're thinking about coming into Micro Four Thirds, you may not know that. So when we talk about focal lengths, particularly with this in mind at 12 to 45, that will provide us with a 35mm format equivalent field of view crop of 24 to 90mm. Okay. And that f4 is a constant aperture all the way through the zoom range. So it's really useful to be able to go from 12 to 45 or 24 to 90 crop view equivalent, and be able to maximize that, that aperture at f4. Your maximum aperture is f4 and your minimum is f22. A lot of people think that that's the same case of all Micro Four Thirds lenses, but there are some Micro Four Thirds, I'm sorry, getting a bit tongue-tied there, some Micro Four Thirds lenses that do only go to f16, such as the 1.2 range of lenses. Now, this lens is fantastically well built optically, obviously, because it's one of our big key parts of the industry is optics. And there are 12 elements in 9 groups in this lens. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how those elements work and what they do, particularly when we refer to them as, so for example, here we've got 2 HR lenses. There's 1 DSA lens. There's 1 super HR lens. That sounds exciting. 2 aspherical lenses and 2 ED lenses. The ED lenses bit always reminds me of something that my youngest daughter says when we're in the car listening to the radio and Ed Sheeran comes on, and she's just really kind of getting to grips with reading, and she reads the screen and says, oh, look, it's Ed Sheeran, when it's actually Ed Sheeran. And these ED lenses always remind me about that moment. But ED in this case doesn't stand for Ed Sheeran. It stands for something else, and we're going to cover that topic as part of the slideshow a little bit later on. You've got 7 blades in this one. A lot of the Pro lenses have got 7 blades in a circular aperture diaphragm system as well. And the filter size for this lens, if you wanted to use things like circular polarizers or any screw-on, step-up, step-down bits and pieces on the end, is 58 millimeters. And it weighs in at a paltry 254 grams. Now, for a lens of its capability as an f4 constant, with a 12 to 45 or 24 to 90 equivalent zoom range, that's actually so light. This lens is actually smaller and lighter than our 12 to 40 f2.8. So that's our first kind of start into the specifications. As we go through, remember, I am on my own, everybody, so I just have a quick look over at the comments and see if there's anything specific that I need to peel out that's relevant to what we're doing here. So speed reading and talking at the same time, saying some quick hellos. Raphael's in Montreal. Hello. G'day, Glenn in Queensland in Australia. Thanks for dropping in. And Nige in Bridgend, South Wales. Good to see you as well. Loads more people. Hello to everybody. Margot is in Atlanta. Margot, fantastic to see you over there. Let's have a quick look. There's a question here from Ricky. It's not related to what we've just looked at in this particular screen. Ricky Starr has asked here, let's just pop it up on the screen. Can I use my OMD EM10-2 to zone focus with the Olympus 25mm lens? Yeah, of course. So zone focus in particular is when we manually focus the lens or pre-focus with a single autofocus action on a point in time and space. So for example, the best kind of description I usually like to think about is perhaps motor racing. where cars are going around a track and you want to specifically catch a car at a point on the track, and you'll pre-focus or zone focus at that point in the track, and the subject car is going to come through that focus point, so you can just rattle off a burst. And of course, yes, you can with the EM10 Mark II, as you can with any of the OMDs and OM cameras. You'll simply need to either pop your camera into manual focus or the lens into manual focus if it's a pro clutch lens, and then focus on the specific area that you want to zone focus in, or use a single autofocus related to a back button option, so that when you press the shutter, the camera doesn't try and refocus out of the zone that you've already prepared. So yes, you can, Ricky. And if you want to know more about that, you can always reach out, get in touch with us. Hi, Eddie from Toronto. Good to see you. Let's see what else we've got here. David has acquired a 4150 f2.8 Pro. Beautiful lens, absolutely stunning lens, not only for the longer range stuff in terms of sports and wildlife, obviously, but I utilize it quite often in portraiture. And you're twinning it with a 12-40 f2.8. Yes, an amazing pair, absolutely fantastic. Part of 2/3 of the holy trinity of 2.8 lenses, only missing the 7-14, which is a very specific lens for a very specific job. Okay. We've got Lorraine in Rosebud, Australia. And as I've said before, Lorraine, it sounds like a beautiful place, does Rosebud. And we have the infamous Tor Goldsmith telling me to nerd out. And I'm nerding out on lenses. If that wasn't already obvious, this is me nerding out on lenses. It's fantastic stuff. Let's go back over to the slides. We'll look at some more questions and comments in a second. Let's see what else is going on over here with the 12-45. So next on our slides here, we're going to look at how small it is. And there's a comparison image there just underneath me right here between the 254 gram 12-45 lens and the 382 gram amazing 12-42.8 lens. Now, obviously, that's a 2.8 lens. That's a faster constant aperture, so you get a bit more bulk in the body. Not a large lens by any means, but the 12-45 is considerably smaller than that as well. I think we likened it to sort of an apple size and weight in your hand. And it is the world's most compact and lightweight constant aperture pro zoom, so it's got a nice little title to it. There's an amazing AF focuser unit in here, so high speed focusing. We've got a very specific focusing lens element in there, which I'll come to as well. And of course, as with many, if not all now of the current M.Zuiko lenses, we have the zero coating on that lens, which is the extra low reflection optical coating, and helps to bring down things like ghosting and flare. So this is going to give you a breakdown of this 12-45 lens. It's a nice little cut through here, and what you'll see here is these are the lenses that I talked about earlier. So you've got your high refractive index lenses, that's your HR lenses, your dual superaspheric lenses, DSA lenses, super high refractive index lenses, that's a super HR, not personnel, obviously. We've got super HR at OM System and OM Digital Solutions, but this is super HR for high refractive. And then you've got your aspherical lens in there and an extra low dispersion lens as well. We'll cover what those really mean at this towards the end of the session, really, to kind of get an idea of it's kind of almost justifying the purchase of this type of lens with this kind of technology in there. You can see them all lined up there. Now, number 4 lens that you can see just in here, that is the focusing element that's right there. So the number 4 lens is the aspherical lens, and that means it's thinner in the middle. And we've got some really cool technology to create this kind of stuff, which it gets us away from some traditional problems related to aspherical lenses, or related to light bending, actually, in general. So that lens is very important, not only because it's aspherical and it solves a light bending problem, but also because it's a focusing element in there as well. Your maximum aperture of f4 is right through the zoom range. So it doesn't matter where you are, 12-45, you can be wide open at f4. And that's really, really important if you're going to be shooting in low light conditions. So in the condition that you're looking at now, these 2 examples here, this is showing you some really high resolution imagery that can come from the 12-45. Obviously, you can use high res as a feature if you have a camera body that enables that feature. And you've got 2 examples here of the wide end and the tele end of that lens being used in an indoor scenario, but perfect for that f4 because you're still bringing in lots and lots of light and not worrying about stopping down and losing that light in an environment like that. And that's super, super important. And this 12 to 45 is great for those kind of conditions. And it wouldn't be a pro lens if we didn't weather seal it. So there's a nice image there of all the seals that are built in to that particular lens and then attached to the weather seal body. So remember, super, super important. If you think to yourself, I want to be immune from all the elements, I'm going to get myself a weather sealed lens. And that's fantastic as long as you're putting it on a weather sealed body. So that would be either an EM5, an EM1 series camera, or indeed, of course, the OM1. Most of you already know that. But if you're thinking about coming over, if you're just checking us out now to see what's available, it's really important to make sure you're matching weather sealed lenses to weather sealed bodies before you go out in that thunderstorm taking pictures. And of course, it's not just water. The lenses and the bodies are dust proof and freeze proof as well. One of my favorite features about both of these lenses that we're going to talk about today, and those of you that know me will instantly click on to this, is the fact that you can get so close up. So you have these macro capabilities. Now, of course, we're not saying you can reproduce a one-to-one macro ratio, 1 times magnification or greater with this lens alone. But in terms of focusing super close and being able to be super close to a subject and get that macro or close-up look, both of these lenses are fantastic in that area, as you can see here from this very, very cute looking, I want to say grasshopper, but I'm not that familiar with that particular insect. Okay. Now, because of that, what we're getting is a magnification of 0.5 times. So if you were to compare this to something like the 60mm macro, which is capable of doing a 1 times magnification, or what we also call as 1-to-1 ratio, what you're getting here is 0.5 times, which is 1 to 2. Effectively. So you're getting half magnification across the entire zoom range. So that means that when you're focusing at its closest point, if you're looking at the wide angle, so if you're at 12 millimeters, your focusing distance is 12 centimeters. Now, if you're at the telephoto end, your focusing distance is 23 centimeters. But if any of you have seen my previous Tech Tuesday talking about the 60 millimeter and the 30 millimeter macro, you'll remember that those distances are from the sensor plane in the camera, not from the front element of the lens. Because you think, well, hang on a minute, 12 centimeters, David, whoa, that's quite far away from the end of the lens, really, if you want to talk about close-up. 23 centimeters is almost a foot. That's actually from the kind of central part of your camera body, which is where the sensor plane lies. So effectively, what we're talking about in terms of focusing distance on the wide angle end, you're looking at about 2.5 to 3 centimeters from the front element. And then when you're at the telephoto end at 45, then you're probably looking at around 10 centimeters or so from the front element. So super close, nice, super close focusing that you're able to get with this lens. Now, of course, there would be no point in making it a super close focusing lens if it wasn't compatible with things like focus stacking or focus bracketing. And so that's some of the coolest features that you can get on an OMD or OM camera at the moment. So you're going to be able to take multiple shots at different focal planes, and the camera's going to squeeze them all together for you and create an image. Or, of course, you can take even more shots, bracketing those up to several hundreds, and then you can stack them together in your favorite post-edit software. And this camera, this lens will be completely compatible with that. You will need to do a firmware update on the lens if you do get it to enable that feature to work, but it's nice and simple. Right, so I'm going to leave that slide just there for a second. I'm going to come back over to my comments. Oh, and it's zipped all the way to the end, which is never a good thing for me because I do like to pick up where I left off. So let's see. We said hello to Lorraine and Tor. I'm also going to say hello to... I always like these cheeky ones as well. It's people that are watching when they're not supposed to be watching. I'm going to say hi to Petra. Hello, Petra, who's on Facebook in Germany, trying to watch during the lunch break. Cheeky. Get the ear pods in. Don't let anybody know that you're doing it. But thanks for joining. And of course, yeah, this is recorded, fully recorded. If you can't hang about for the whole session, then of course, please do drop back later where the whole video will be available for you to watch and share and spread the joy as much as you like. Fred asks a very good question, is how does it compare with the 12 to 40 Pro? It is exactly on a par. If you look at the difference between the aperture rating and the sort of 5mm on the telephoto ends of being the only real differences in terms of edge-to-edge sharpness, you're going to experience exactly the same sort of image quality from this lens as you would. And a quick hello. Hi, Christopher in Maryland in the USA. Good to see you. There's Mary Do as well. Good to see you, Mary. Nice to see Mary dropping in. Always good to see some familiar faces and some new ones as well. Okay. So just going to check in on this. I'm going to pull this out here. Jack is not sure whether it's just him or not, but my voice keeps cutting out for very short times. If there's a problem with the audio, shout, let me know, and I'll see if I can clear it up as we go through. But remember, I'm on my own. I'll do my best for you as well. It might just be your connection, Jack. Yes, David, of course, you can see a recorded version. Come back anytime to our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to pick up this video wherever you like. Right, let's see. I'm just really kind of scanning in for questions based on this. And here we go. This is an excellent question. Very, very excellent question. I'm going to answer this one as diplomatically as possible. Mark has, I'm not even going to try to pronounce your surname for fear of offending you, Mark. So we're going to go Mark on YouTube. Do you recommend shooting with a protective lens filter on your lens? There are many different schools of thought on this one. Personally, I don't use any protective filters on my lenses. I use my lens hoods to as much as possible to try and protect them, because I do notice that there can be a difference in terms of image quality when using lens filters, whether that's a simple protection filter or whether it's a filter for another job. Obviously, if you're using a circular polarizer, yes, that has a great job to do, and you should be using that to achieve the effect that that's there to offer you. But what you kind of need to do is make a decision on your own. This is your choice to decide whether or not using a protection filter is for you, based on the information that you may well lose image quality. And the best way to check that on your specific equipment and in your type of shooting is to take one shot without a protection filter on, and then take exactly the same shot with it off. Compare the two. If you see no discernible difference and you're happy, then of course use a protection filter. But if not, then the choice is there for you to make. Hopefully that is a reasonably active answer for you. Okay, let's have a quick flick through, see if there's anything else that is relevant to what we're talking about. Lorraine says voice is nice and clear, Jack. So I think it might be a problem locally for you that's occurring with my audio. So I'm sorry about that. We've got Lynn in at Lincoln. Oh, I know Lynn. Lynn from Lincoln. Fantastic to see you. Lynn's been out photographing wild orchids using a 40-150 Pro. Amazing lens. Great for lots and lots of different things. Thanks for dropping by, Lynn. Absolutely amazing. And Chris says everything's okay as well. Good stuff. Always good to know, because you are my eyes and ears. It's really, really important to get that feedback from you. So I'm going to carry on with the slides, and we'll see what comes up next. The 8mm fisheye has come up next. This is a fantastic lens. Some might say quite a niche area to work with. I've used it quite a lot, and I think it's an absolutely fantastic lens to work with. It's built so well. Now, the 8mm, of course, is going to give you a 16mm field of view crop equivalent, but you're going to experience this fisheye distortion at various different levels, depending on your distance to a subject and whether or not you've got things like horizontal or vertical lines in your image or anything else like that. So that's always worth bearing in mind. But it's designed to give you this fisheye distortion in the image. Maximum aperture of f1.8, super bright, and a minimum of f22. You've got 17 elements in here and 15 different groups. You've got one aspherical lens. That's that one that's thinner in the middle. You've got your 3 super ED or extra low dispersion lenses, 2 extra low dispersion lenses, 1 super HR, highly refractive or high refractive lens, and 2 standard high refractive lenses in there as well. Again, 7 blades across that aperture diaphragm. Fill size, unnecessary, because of the built-in hood on this lens. You don't have a standard filter thread that you can apply anything too. And there, of course, there are aftermarket ways of doing that. And if you are going to do that, just make sure you check reviews and make sure it's not going to damage your product to do that. This would relate specifically to lenses like the 7-14 if you're going to use filters on it, things like that. So they are available, but just check. And it weighs in 315 grams. So not the heaviest in the world ever. Your angle of view here, 180 degrees. That is super cool. I once tried to do, in fact, no, I didn't once try to do. We did a lens comparison in terms of compression and how things look. We did it one Christmas, I think. I had my little Chewbacca bobblehead as a subject matter. And when we did the fisheye version, all the magic of this is given away because it was so wide you could see absolutely everything in what is actually, this is quite a small room and you could just see absolutely everything. It gives away the whole game. Nothing is left uncovered when you look at the fisheye. So it's a really beautiful 180 degree view. You're getting 0.2 times magnification from this at its absolute maximum close focusing point on there as well. And it's an IP53 weather seal camera as well when used with the weather seal body. It's the world's first f1.8 fisheye. What an amazing label to have as well. And it does apply to lots of different areas. People are often asking me, well, where can I use a fisheye? Well, you can use it anywhere you like to get these really creative looks. So you've got underwater is a big, big place to use macro, nice and wide. And obviously that fits with all the underwater housings that we and other products have available on the market. You've got things like starscape and night photography. You can use it creatively with architecture, pet photography. If you want to get a really big nose on a beautiful Labrador, then you can do that as well. And of course, if you wanted to take this super wide angle view and then correct it, you can also post edit correct. And some of the cameras, some of the later models have defishing features in the camera. So you can defish to a couple of degrees in camera as well. Okay. Oh, speaking of which, actually, we've just had a question come up from Trevor. Hi, Trevor. Good to see you. Do you advise in-camera defishing or do you do it in post-processing using RAW? I think this boils down to what is your preferred workflow. We live in a world where there are people who don't want to shoot RAW for whatever reason. Can't post edit, don't want to post edit, and rightly so, whatever reason is absolutely fine. So those kind of people will want to defish in camera because then they're getting the JPEG straight out of the camera, defished, ready to go. But if you're happy with doing that post-process work, then you know you can go through RAW and then defish it in your preferred software at the end. So it comes down to personal preference and workflow, I think there, Trevor. Okay. Let's see if there's got anything else in here that I can quickly bring up before I move on. Yes, we've got Roberto, can Workspace defish? Yes, Workspace can defish. Anything you can do in the camera, you can do in Workspace as well. Right, let's go to the next one. Keep those comments coming. I will have a quick look back as well because I think I missed some coming through here. There it is. It's a beautiful looking lens as well. It's such a well-built piece of optics. Absolutely fantastic. You're going to be able to get that lovely defocused background. You're going to be able to get this weird kind of compression because of that distortion. What you do have to remember is that when you want to create compression and therefore defocusing the background, is more often than not, the more telephoto you go, the better it is. With the fisheye, you can get really, really close and the subject still appears quite far away. So you need to experiment with how that works in defocusing the background. It's a slightly different technique. But the best thing about this is that you can get from the front element 2.5 centimeters away. And that still makes it look like all of your subjects are miles away because of the way that that wide angle and fisheye distortion works. But absolutely fantastic to be able to get that close to something. And this is something that a lot of people forget that you can do with fisheye lenses, that you can bring up these beautiful renditions of architecture and cityscapes and things like that. And because it's an f1.8 lens, you want to use it in really low light conditions. Again, absolutely perfect for bringing that in as well. So this is the setup. So quite a lot more going on here than in the 12-45 lenses. You can see there are lots more lenses. There are 17 elements in there now. With this, you've got as you can see, numbered there at the front. You've got your high refractive index lens. It's right at the front. That's always the first one to challenge any light that's coming in. And then back at number 4, you've got your Super ED lens at the back. And you've got your aspherical lens somewhere in the middle. And they're all built in different ways for a different style of focal length, really, to give you the best out of that particular focal length. They'll never be arranged in exactly the same way. But your focusing lenses are usually closer to the back or bottom of the lens. You do, of course, have that zero coating on there, the M.Zuiko extra low reflection coating. That's going to help you reduce ghosting and flares. And you've got the weather sealing in there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 specific seals that are going to preserve your lens when combined with the weather seal body from the elements in there as well. And of course, it is an excellent addition to any underwater photography kit. So if there are any underwater photographers or potentially underwater photographers, this is one that we see going out quite a lot to underwater kits. Now, of course, we have our own underwater housing for many of our bodies. There are excellent third-party products on the market as well, and many of them will have created a port for the 8mm because it is such a popular lens. And you can get some really, really beautiful images underwater anyway. If you start to add that extra dimension of a sort of 16mm field of view equivalent with that distortion in there, it's going to really give you some fantastic results. So let's just quickly recap. We've done this before when we talked about the 60mm and the 30mm. And I think in previous Focus on Lens sessions, we've also talked about the difference between these lenses. These are the really nerdy bits, but it's nice to know because this is where you want to sort of look at the value of your product and what you're getting in terms of all of these lens groupings and elements. And I've seen it come up in sort of social media groups online, and people sort of wonder what's the difference between, you know, 150 to 200 pound lens and then, you know, an 850 to £1,000 or dollar or insert local currency here lens. And why is there such that gap? And it usually comes down to the number of elements and the quality of those lenses that are built in. And this is the kind of lenses that we put into our pro lenses. So your first one here is your dual super spherical lens. Now this one's really, really important. This is the one that's thinner in the middle. So it's really thin in the middle. I think it's really kind of wide at the ends. And what that's there to do is to make sure that you get absolute clean, focused and sharp light whilst reducing any sort of aberrations. And it's not necessarily traditional chromatic aberrations, okay, because there are different elements that will deal with that. But that's what that's there for, and it's to enable that edge-to-edge sharpness, to make sure that your sharpness doesn't fall off from the center immediately out of that frame. Now, what does deal with chromatic aberration is the EDA lens, which is the extra low dispersion spherical lens. And what that does is it deals with the fact that light comes into the lens in all the different colors of the rainbow, and all of those different wavelengths of colors don't focus at exactly the same position. So that's when you get this chromatic aberration where you may see sort of red, yellow, purple, green tint around the edges of things that are sort of in focus. And it's because all those rainbows come in. And you can also kind of imagine it like the fingers on my hand. As the light comes in, this is one wavelength that hits a focal plane right here, but a different color wavelength isn't quite there. And they're not focusing all on the same wavelength. And that EDA lens is there to challenge that and to try and repair any potential chromatic aberration. Then you've got your super high refractive index lens, and this is what is really pushing that light into absolute sharpness. And it's all about getting that light as sharp as it can be from the minute it enters the lens and fine-tuning it down to the point where it hits that sensor. And on the way, getting rid of things like ghosting, flare, aberration, any barrel distortion that shouldn't be there, and then chromatic aberration on top as well. So trying to get that uniform light through is super, super important to your final image. Okay. Defy the moment with us, with OM System. That's the end of those particular slides on that, on those two lenses. It's a bit of a whirlwind run through as to what those two lenses can do, because to be honest with you, there are so many different applications and possibilities with those two lenses. Again, we could do a Tech Tuesday all day going through them all, producing comparisons and examples and things like that. But it gives you an idea of how they're built, how they're designed to be used. And then, of course, you're just applying that to your own specific creative output and then your workflow as well on top of that. That's really, really important. Now, we've got a little bit of time left before the end of the session, so I'm going to go in and take a look at some of these comments that I think I missed as I was going down. There's some very, very valid comments. Look, I'm going to bring this one up from David saying that it's a shame that the F4 range cannot be attached, not paid, but cannot be attached to an MC14 or an MC20. And of course, there are limitations in terms of how those elements work. Part of the reason why a lot of lenses can't be used with the MC14 and MC20 teleconverter adapters is size and weight. So everything's built to be a specific size and weight. It's engineered to take up a certain amount of space and to balance and things like that. So that's why a lot of the reason is, and if we were to make every lens like that, we would definitely be adding extra space and extra weight into those as well. But I definitely do see your point, David. I think this is in reference to our little creepy critter earlier. Doug says that he thinks it was a katydid. And having heard that, I think you could be right. I'm going to go with you and say, yeah, let's do that one. Margaret's asked if focus stacking is available with these lenses. So with the 12 to 45, yes, focus stacking is available, but not with the 8mm f1.8 Pro fisheye. But you can do it with the 12 to 45. You'll just need to do, if it's brand new to you and you haven't done an update ever on that lens, then you'll need to do an update to enable that lens for focus stacking, or on your body, specifically on your body, actually, to make sure that it can focus stack with that. Just make sure you're up to date with all your firmwares anyway, and that'll unlock all the magical mysteries of everything that we make. And Karen has made quite a good point. Weather resistant is not waterproof, but up to how much. You've read of people running water over the lens camera to remove dust and sand from the beach. So when people say to me, is it waterproof? My response is, you cannot submerge your camera. So it is not waterproof, okay? So waterproof is submerged and subjected to any form of pressure whilst completely surrounded by a body of water. Splash proof and water resistant means that it's going to be able to take splash and things like that. And yes, we've got ambassadors that have openly talked about getting their camera muddy and then rinsing it off with a bottle of water. That is water resistant, yeah. But waterproof usually relates to submerging a camera, which don't do. There are even videos of people doing it with previous OMDs, not us. We don't condone it at all. But that's my understanding of what I feel waterproof would mean, is if you could submerge a camera like the TG6, which you can submerge. That is a waterproof camera, but otherwise water resistant is above water level and being sprayed with water. So yes, there are some ambassadors that do run water over their lens and camera to remove muck and grime. Okay, going back through, let's see. Graham's abandoned us. Graham Parry has abandoned us because his beer is getting warm. He must be making the most of the sunshine that's appeared here in the UK very briefly. Enjoy the beer, Graham. So Daniel Collins asked a really good question. Daniel's on YouTube. Are the focus distances you mentioned the same with the 2.8 version? No, the focusing distances are different across the lenses. So with the 2.8 version, as I recall off the top of my head, it's approximately 10 centimeters from the front element with the 12 to 40 f2.8 for focusing at the telephoto end. So at 40 millimeters, I think it's approximately 10 centimeters from front element on that one. Whereas you would be, I'm just trying to work that one out now, nearer to 12 centimeters on the 12 to 45. But they are always slightly different. The good thing about them is, though, so if I was to grab a lens, let's see, oh, here we go. This is a good example. So on your 12 to 45, sorry, your 8 to 25, crazy, I just don't have the 12 to 45 to hand to show you. But on your lenses, the minimum focusing distances will always be written. Now, on the 8 to 25, we look down at the base of the body. It says 0.23 meters. It's down here. Get my face in the way. In very, very pale grey writing, it says 0.23 meters. Or 0.75 of a foot. That 0.23 meters relates from the center plane. So if you were thinking about it in terms of overall, you go from the center plane, which is sort of where the EVF hump is. There's a little symbol on the side of it that looks like a circle with a line through it. That 23 centimeters is from there. but they're all different and they're all written on the base of your lenses as well. Manuel, make the most of it. So far, we shall bring you over. Don't you worry. Oh, Susie from West Australia. Hello to you. And another vote for good audio. Thanks, Andy. Really important to keep those things coming through. Chris Bennett has asked a great question. I love Chris Bennett's question. Good to see Chris as always. Chris says, assume you can use extension tubes 10 and 16 millimeters with both the lenses you're talking about today, including the fisheye. You can use extension tubes with any lens whatsoever. The effects will differ and you will lose infinity focus. So what that means is if you put extension tubes on a 12 to 45 and try to focus on a building 200 yards away, it won't focus. It will be now restricted to very near focusing only. So you do lose that element of the lens when you use an extension tube. But the compromise of that is that you're using extension tubes to get closer. So yes, you can use extension tubes on any lenses and with slightly different effects with each one. And you will lose a little bit of light depending on what extension tubes you use. Okie dokie. Let's see, lots of people saying we're good for audio and a couple of people saying it's also breaking up occasionally as well. So I think there might be some local conditions, but I'm confident that for the best part, for most of you, it seems to be working well. I'm going to skip right down to the bottom and I'm going to bring JD's comment up here because this is a good example of something from a user point of view, because at the end of the day, you know, we're wearing the badge and we can say all of these cool things about the camera. JD is telling us that he carries a squirt bottle of distilled water when he's in a saltwater environment, and just a squirt from the bottle and the salt spray on the lens will go away. And other people are terrified and looking on in horror when he does it. So it's a good example of something that a user is doing. At the end of the day, super, super careful with everything that you've got anyway. But your lenses and your cameras, if they carry the weather sealed, guarantee they are weather sealed against the weather, rain, snow, dust storms, things like that. But there are many anecdotal activities that go on which don't harm the system. Okie dokie. Oh, this is great. Manuel, you have to agree that changing the system is only for sponsored pros and users like Gavin Hoey. I'm not sure about that. I was a user of other systems previously. I think there are many other ones in here as well. But as we should say, don't knock it until you've tried it. And if you get an opportunity to try the OMD or OM equipment, absolutely do get on there and give it a go. But this is great. I'm so happy about this one. This is a great comment, Manuel. You're learning a lot with Olympus. That is the key. We are here not just obviously to produce great equipment and get them into your hands, but we are here to talk about education as well. And I think, for me, I'm very proud to be part of a team that has done magnificently well over the years, in particular the last 2 or 3 years, through some really difficult times in the crazy world that we live in. To be part of an education team, to be able to bring things like this to you, to be able to show people how things work, to break them apart, to be there to answer questions. So yes, I'm so glad that you do learn so much with us, Manuel. That's really, really nice to hear. So sadly, we are coming to the end of the session. As always, I'd like to thank you very much for joining me and listening to me jabber on about all things nerdy and giving me your questions and comments. It's always great to see that you're all there, still taking amazing pictures and being part of our amazing community. Keep an eye out for everything that's going on from us. You can check on our YouTube page for any upcoming streams. We'll put on all sorts of things. And of course, if you need anything at all, reach out to us, reach out to your local regional teams or send us a message on social media and we'll be able to help you out as well. Don't forget, if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to the channel and you'll be notified of any new videos that come up, whether that's a live or whether it's a technique video that we put on that's not live. It'll all come through and ding dong and let you know that we're here. So look after yourselves. It is a crazy world out there. We're still not getting things like cars and anything with a chip in, but be patient and we will all hopefully be getting back to normal sometime soon. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye and I'll see you in a month's time. on the next Tech Tuesday. Take care. Bye-bye.